So this video is to shed some light for newbies on astrological specialties. So sometimes noobs to the scene will confuse techniques, styles, branches with specialties, and those are different things. So let's talk about some of the most popular specialties that astrologers can have. So the first three I want to mention have a merger between the pseudoscience and the science. Really quick, there's a trend going on where if you use the word pseudoscience, it means it's fake. That's not what it means. For example, the spirituality of the stars is and the planets is astrology, whereas the actual science of it is astronomy. So there are different things. One is a physical and actual science, a life science, and one is spirituality. So using the word pseudoscience does not mean it's fake, all right? Now, that being said, let's move on. So the first was going to be astropsychology. So there are always exceptions and wiggle room. Let me give you some examples. Technically speaking, an astropsychologist is a licensed practicing psychologist that merges astrology in their therapies. Now, could there be exceptions? Yes, absolutely. Let's take Edward. Let's name him Edward, and let's say that during the day he is a licensed, psychology, professional, so a mental health professional. And by night, he just, he's very spiritual and he studies astrology for himself, his friends, and he doesn't use it as therapies. Okay, so then maybe he labels himself an astrologer. So that can be a psychologist that decides to practice astrology, but he's not really merging it. At some point, they will merge in his mind because, it's just kind of like that. They do kind of connects. Why? Mind, body, soul. So people that are very spiritual, they end up seeing a lot of that in the psyche and so forth. So, it does link, but technically speaking, it's one person can separate two things. When you don't is when it's called astropsychology. So it's a theory of philosophy. It is a specialty that you merge both. So another example would be maybe a psychotherapist, where that's they give therapies by day, and they also incorporate astrology in their practice. So this would be another way. All right. So let's go on. So a couple of other specialties in astrology that merge science would be, let's say, astroeconomics, and that's really interesting. So you technically it would be an economist that is also very spiritual. So an economist, astrologist, or really astrologer. And, that's really what it is, because astrology plays a role in kind of timing things with the economic trends, right? But again, they could be separate. So another one would be astro child rearing. So this normally would be someone with a background in child education, maybe pedagogy, maybe it's certain types of coaching children, whatever. The education field is vast, but it would be someone that has that in their background and they're merging astrology with it. And that again can have little subsections in it, but generally that's when you merge both. Now let's take a look at other specialties in astrology. Now me would know that with my educational background, I technically would be considered a social scientist, but since I'm an astrologer, you would think that I would practice mundane, but I don't. It's something that I don't care for. It's interesting. I do respect it, and I think it's really interesting, but it's just something that I just don't specialize in. I'm not interested. So my specialties are three other ones, and I'll explain what those are in case you like them, and maybe that's something you want to specialize in, or maybe it's a specialty that you want to look for in the astrologer that you hire. So the first one of my first specialty would be horary. Some people call it orary, some people say horary, but it's really Hari. All right. So that is how that's how to use astrology like an oracle system. So maybe like tarot, for example, like a tarot reading, if you will. It's that concept. So the structure is different. I mean, to be technical, I would say that, Hari is really something that is a branch. It's really its own branch of astrology. I don't think that's a specialty, really. But some people consider it a specialty, so we'll leave it in that group. But when I cover branches, I will mention it again. All right, so that's my first specialty is horary. My second specialty is synastry. So love is my specialty. So that's called synastry astrology. Now, technically speaking, I don't only use a synastry charts for my work, obviously. It's just called synastry astrology, which is the astrology of relationships, mostly romantic love, but it can also be platonic relationships as well. But in my specialty, I focus on romance and love, marriages, all those things, right? So that in particular, I use many techniques. I'll give you a couple of examples. I don't only run a synastry. I also run a composite, and I also run different types of composites, and I also use harmonics, and those are techniques and styles. But the specialty is synastry, okay, which is called love astrology. The next specialty, which is my third one, they're not in any particular order. I use all three for decades, so there's no one above the other. The other one is vocational, but here's the difference. A vocational astrologer is an astrologer that their focus is to shine a light on the best career choice that a person can have and study the chart and say, look, some people do it by guidance counseling, like aptitude tests and all these things, which is great, but if you're using astrology, there's a way to kind of say, look, your big talent is here. This is, but if you put me in a room with, let's say 1,000 vocational astrologers, while every one of us will be different, I think I deviate a bit from the group. And the reason is because I don't fit the exact mold of vocational astrologer. Why is that? Because the philosophy in that is that you can help a person choose something better, something that they will love more. Not if you follow evolutionary methods like I do. It's a totally different philosophy. I'll leave that for another video. But yes, vocational astrology, like when people say, what am I supposed to do with my life? I'm lost. What do I do? What was I meant to do? This anxious, perplexed question, right? This burning question. And this is where I shed light on it. And I'll be like, this is your path. And so that is pretty much it. There are a lot of other types of specialties. I just mentioned some of the most popular. And if you have any questions, leave them below. Or this could be a little mini series so I can shed light on branches, styles, techniques, things like that. And then also, if you're an astrologer, how to create a proper description to your clients, which reminds me, I haven't done that myself on my website, which I need to update and I need to do. Well, it's updated, but I just need to incorporate that because sometimes clients want to know, what is your specialty? How do you practice that? All right. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully you liked it. You can always join my Patreon for $13 a month, where you get horoscopes and different things going on with astrology. And you can always catch me for a reading on the live stream. And if you want a private reading or a chart, you can always book that through my website, lucysastrology.com. My company is La Maison, Juju, LLC, and my name is Lucy. All right, guys, until next time, toodaloo.